My friend, I don't know what brought you here today. I don't know what burdens you carry or what prison walls surround your mind. I don't know what closed doors have refused to budge no matter how hard you knock. But I came to tell you something simple, something powerful, something eternal. If you say this and say it with your whole heart, every chain can break, every barrier can crumble, and every door can swing wide open. Now listen to me. I'm not talking about magic or superstition. I'm not talking about some formula you chant like a spell. No, I'm talking about truth. I'm talking about the power that spoke the stars into existence. I'm talking about the name above every name. The words that have split seas, shattered strongholds, and raised the dead. Surrender is often seen as a sign of weakness in a world that values control, strength, and self-reliance. Yet in the spiritual realm, it is anything but weak. Surrender is the key to unlocking divine power, a power that transcends human understanding and surpasses every limitation we place on ourselves. When we surrender, we are not giving up. We are giving over. We are placing our lives, our dreams, our worries, and our futures into the hands of a higher power. It is in this act of yielding that we access a strength far greater than our own. Human nature pushes us towards striving, pushing, and attempting to manipulate every situation to fit our desires and expectations. We are taught to fight for what we want, never give up, and always be in control. These principles have served us well in many aspects of life, but they often fall short when we encounter obstacles beyond our control. There are moments when we feel the weight of the world pressing upon us. In those times, surrender becomes not just a choice, but a necessity. Surrendering does not mean accepting defeat or passively resigning ourselves to whatever comes our way. Instead, it means recognizing that our understanding is limited and that there is a greater purpose and plan at work in the world, one that we may not fully comprehend. In those moments of surrender, we relinquish our personal agendas, our control over outcomes, and our obsession with timing. We trust that the Creator knows what is best for us, even when we don't understand it. We acknowledge that there is power in trusting, even when the path ahead is unclear. In surrender, we open ourselves to divine guidance. The strength that flows from surrender is not born out of our own willpower or determination, but from aligning ourselves with the will of something far greater. It is through surrender that we invite divine intervention into our lives, allowing us to be led in ways we never could have predicted or orchestrated on our own. We let go of the need to manipulate circumstances and people and instead trust that God's plan is unfolding, even in the most difficult of times. There is a paradox in surrender. The more we give up control, the more control we actually gain. It is through surrender that we find peace, not in our own ability to fix everything, but in the realization that we are not alone in our struggles. Surrender allows us to step back, stop fighting the current, and trust the flow of life. We stop trying to push open doors that are meant to remain closed and instead find the courage to walk through the open ones. The power in surrender lies in its ability to break down the walls of fear, pride, and self-sufficiency that keep us from experiencing the fullness of divine strength. When we let go, we make room for the power of God to work in us and through us. It is in this space of surrender that miracles happen, not because of our efforts, but because we have placed ourselves in a position to receive what only God can give. Surrender isn't about giving up. It's about giving over to a power that is greater, wiser, and more loving than anything we could ever understand. Thy will be done is a phrase that echoes through the ages, often uttered with reverence and hope. It is not merely a request, but an ultimate act of faith, a declaration of trust in something far greater than ourselves. When we say these words, we are relinquishing control over our lives and recognizing that the path we walk is not entirely of our own making. It is an acknowledgement that there is a purpose, a plan, and a reason for everything, even when we cannot see it, even when the road ahead seems unclear and the challenges seem insurmountable. To say, "Thy will be done," is to submit to divine wisdom and timing, to trust that the Creator knows what is best for us, even when we are unable to understand it ourselves. In a world that often celebrates independence and self-reliance, the idea of surrendering to something outside of ourselves can be difficult to grasp. We are conditioned to believe that we must fight for what we want, take control of our circumstances, and shape our destiny with our own hands. However, true freedom lies not in the power we wield over others or the control we exert over our lives, but in surrendering to the greater will of the Creator. When we let go of our personal desires and submit to divine direction, we step into a space where we are no longer bound by our own limitations. The phrase, "Thy will be done," opens the door to a higher power, one that sees the bigger picture, knows our hearts, and understands the purpose behind every challenge and every triumph. To say, "Thy will be done," is not to deny our own desires or dismiss the aspirations we hold dear. It does not mean that we abandon our hopes and dreams, but rather that we place them in the hands of a power that knows what is truly best for us. It is an act of profound humility, a recognition that our understanding is finite and that there is wisdom beyond our comprehension. When we say, "Thy will be done," we are surrendering our limited vision for a grander plan. We trust that even when things do not unfold according to our expectations, there is a purpose at work that we may not yet see. This simple but powerful phrase requires us to move beyond fear and doubt. It asks us to trust that even in the darkest of times, God's plan is at work, that there is light in the midst of darkness, and that every challenge we face is part of a greater design. It is an invitation to release our grip on the things we hold most tightly, our relationships, our careers, our security, and to trust that in doing so, we open ourselves to a deeper, more fulfilling purpose. Saying, "Thy will be done," is an act of trust. It is acknowledging that we are not in control, and that is okay. The burdens we carry are not ours to bear alone, and the weight of the world does not rest on our shoulders. When we surrender, we find peace, not in our ability to fix everything, but in knowing that God is working on our behalf, even in the moments we feel most vulnerable. "Thy will be done" is a prayer of release, of letting go. And in that release, we find the freedom to walk boldly into the future that God has already prepared for us. Trust is the key that opens doors that strength alone cannot. In our human experience, we often turn to our own efforts, relying on our abilities, talents, and perseverance to overcome obstacles and achieve our goals. We believe that if we work hard enough, push long enough, or plan meticulously enough, we can force open the doors that stand in our way. Yet, no matter how strong we are, no matter how relentless our efforts, there are times when the doors remain shut, and we find ourselves exhausted, frustrated, and unsure of how to proceed. It is in these moments that trust becomes the true unlocker of doors. When we place our trust in something beyond ourselves, we acknowledge that there are forces at work greater than our own understanding. Trusting in God, in a higher power, means surrendering the illusion of control and admitting that there are outcomes beyond our reach. While we may have the strength to push against the door, it is trust that allows us to see the wisdom in waiting, in discerning the right moment, and in walking through the door when it is finally opened for us. Trust opens doors not by forcing them, but by recognizing that there is a perfect timing, a plan that has been set in motion long before we ever knew it was coming. Strength may help us face the challenges of the moment, but trust allows us to face the unknowns with peace. When we trust in the one who sees the beginning and the end, we can move forward without fear, knowing that even if the door doesn't open when we want it to, it will open in the right time. Trusting in God's timing and plan means understanding that delays are not denials. In those moments of waiting, trust becomes our greatest strength. For it is trust that helps us endure and remain steadfast, knowing that the door will open when the time is right. Trust is the foundation of all spiritual progress. It is what allows us to take the first step when the path ahead seems uncertain. It is what empowers us to continue walking even when the road is hard and the end is not yet in sight. Trust shifts our focus away from our own ability to control circumstances and places it on the knowledge that in God all things are working together for our good. Trust opens doors by giving us the courage to walk toward them, knowing that they are already open even if we cannot yet see it. It is trust that softens our hearts and clears our vision. When we are trusting, we are not preoccupied with the obstacles ahead. Instead, we become more attuned to the opportunities that are right in front of us. Trusting means we no longer fight to make something happen. Instead, we wait patiently with confidence that the right doors will open at the right time. The strength to push, the will to fight, these things alone will only take us so far. It is trust that truly opens the door to a future beyond what we could have ever planned or imagined. Closed doors are often seen as obstacles or setbacks, something to be overcome or avoided. We tend to view them as barriers to our success, happiness, or progress. Yet there is a deeper understanding. Sometimes closed doors are meant to protect us, to guard us from something we cannot yet see, something that would harm us or steer us away from the greater purpose in our lives. In moments of disappointment, when doors seem to close before us, it is crucial to recognize that these moments may be part of a divine protection, a plan that is unfolding in ways we may not immediately understand. In our impatience and desire to achieve, we can easily become frustrated by closed doors. We push, we try to force them open, believing that if we simply try harder or push more fervently, we will get the result we want. However, this approach often leads to exhaustion, frustration, and confusion. It is important to understand that not all doors are meant to be opened at any given time. Sometimes a closed door is a sign that the timing is not right. Sometimes the right door for us is still down the path, and pushing against the closed one only delays our journey. Closed doors are often protective in nature. They can prevent us from stepping into situations or relationships that may not be in our best interest. They can stop us from making decisions or choices that could lead to harm or unnecessary struggle. In these moments, when we are faced with what seems like a rejection, we must learn to trust that there is a greater wisdom at work, one that sees the bigger picture and knows what is best for us. The closed door is not an obstacle to our success. It is a shield guarding us from the consequences of stepping into something for which we are not prepared, or something that is not aligned with the path we are meant to walk. When we accept that closed doors are sometimes acts of protection rather than rejection, we can begin to shift our perspective. Instead of fighting against the door, we can pause, reflect, and trust in the process. We can ask ourselves why this door is closed and what we can learn from the experience. Perhaps the closed door is guiding us to stop and reflect, to re-evaluate our direction, or to wait for a clearer vision. It is in these moments of stillness that we often find the answers we need. Sometimes the closed door serves as an invitation to grow in patience, resilience, and trust. The path to success and fulfillment is rarely a straight line. It is often filled with detours, delays, and moments of uncertainty. Closed doors remind us that life is not always about forcing our will upon the world, but about understanding and aligning with a greater plan. When we stop seeing closed doors as roadblocks and start viewing them as protective measures, we allow ourselves the space to trust in the unfolding of our journey, knowing that the doors that are meant for us will open when the time is right. Victory begins with letting go, a concept that runs contrary to our natural instinct. We are taught from a young age to fight, to persevere, and to never give up. Our culture values grit, determination, and relentless pursuit of success. But there is a profound truth that often eludes us. The key to victory is not always in holding on, but in the ability to let go. Letting go does not mean surrendering to defeat or walking away from our goals, but rather it involves releasing our attachment to the outcome, to control, and to the need to dictate how things unfold. In many areas of life, we become so attached to specific outcomes that we fail to recognize the opportunities that arise when we release our grip. When we hold on too tightly to our plans, desires, and expectations, we limit the flow of possibilities and often block the very victories we seek. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of strength, a demonstration of trust in the process and in the wisdom of a higher power